Alright, Eggs Mornay. Well, for Eggs Mornay, you'll need some eggs. I've got 2 eggs, 2 nice free-range eggs. The better the eggs, the better the Eggs Mornay. And Eggs Mornay is very similar to Eggs Benedict, but it is not the same. Eggs Benedict is served with the Hollandaise sauce, and Eggs Mornay is served with the cheese sauce. So you'll need some toast to put it all on. So I've got some bread for toast, and I've got some ham that will go on some buttered toast on the plate onto which the eggs and the cheese sauce go. So let me just take you around the rest of the ingredients. So I've got the eggs, got the ham, I've got some extra mature cheddar, right? Whatever kind of cheese you need to make a nice cheese sauce, you need something that's particularly good for making a cheese sauce. So I use an extra mature cheddar. It's nice and sharp and it delivers an excellent flavour. Other good cheeses to use are Gruyere, in particularly Gruyere is rather good, and any other sharp cheese that you enjoy. I wouldn't use a blue cheese for this, but you can make a blue cheese sauce using this process. I've got some butter, which will help me make the sauce, and some flour. That's just ordinary plain all-purpose flour. That's a Romanian brand that I get from my local deli. You'll need some milk to make up the sauce, and a little bit of oil to go with the butter for making up the sauce, the cheese sauce. A little bit of vinegar, I'm using cider vinegar, will go in the poaching water, and that helps hold everything together really nicely. So that's basically it. The only other thing you'll need is a bit of salt and pepper to spice things up a little bit. So we'll get on and we'll show you how to cook the cheese sauce first. Okay, just so you can see and in scale, I grated a slack handful of that cheese up, and bearing in mind this is for 1 portion only, so you'll need to scale this up if you're doing more. I've got 2 eggs. It's going to be like a lunch version or a breakfast version, so it's 2 eggs and that amount of cheese. The amount of cheese isn't terribly important as long as you've got around about that amount, so just eyeball it and see how it goes. You can always taste the sauce and add more cheese as you go. Okay, get yourself a medium-sized pan, and you want to get in just a drizzle of oil into the bottom of that, just a little bit, and then in goes your butter. Swirl it around, and you want to melt that, but you don't want it to burn. So swirl it around and back on the heat, and into that you want a tablespoon or just less of flour, like that, and then you stir it in and get a nice turn on it, and then you'll notice the flour starts to brown ever so quickly. So into that you need to get some milk. So what I do, I poured in best part of half a pint of milk into that, and then stir that in. The other thing you'll need is a whisk, because pretty soon we're going to switch over to a whisk. So keep that stirring, and as the milk comes up to heat, it starts to thicken, and it can go fairly fast. So the stirring is important at this stage. So what I like to do now is switch over to a whisk, and turn the heat down, right down to about 1/3 of your heat range. I'm turning my switch down to 2. I'm going to add a little more milk. Once it starts bubbling up like that, you can add milk. And then you want to get your sauce, your roux sauce, which is what this now is, to the consistency you desire for your cheese sauce. And you can do that by adding more milk to it. So you add your milk a decent glug at a time, but then as you come to thin it out, you add more. Right, into that, it's really simple, goes your cheese. So into that goes your grated cheese, and you stir until all that turns into a delicious thick sauce. You'll notice the action. I'm stirring, scrubbing, stirring and scrubbing. I want to get all that in so I've got a nice smooth sauce, and we end up with I like my sauce quite kind of thick. So I'm going to take that off the heat for a sec. And I'll give it a taste. Yummy. I'm going to cook that for a little bit longer. Give it another taste. As you taste it, the flour in it is a little bit grainy to start with, and that's when you realise you've got to cook it for a little bit longer. So allow it to come to a really slow simmer, and then just keep stirring and scrubbing. Yeah, I know it's a bit of work, but it's worth it, trust me. It's bubbling up nicely. What I want to do now is just do a last taste test, because I think it's done. Let's have a taste. Oh, that's lovely, smooth. Right, I'm going to set that to one side, and if you're going to leave it for any time, you need to cover that so it doesn't form too much of a skin. And then I'm going to get on a frying pan and turn the heat back up, and what I use is a small non-stick pan like that, into which I pour about half an inch, a centimetre of hot water. Now I'm using poached eggs in this, but you can, those so-called poachers are not poachers at all, they actually coddle the eggs. An egg is only poached if it's been in contact, if the actual egg itself has been in contact with the water. What also I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a little splash of vinegar. And just a little, that's cider vinegar I use there, of course, and a little bit of salt. I'm using sea salt. I want to just give that a stir. And then as that's coming up to heat, you see it's coming up to boil. I want to turn that down to a fairly low setting. So I'm going to drop it down to that low setting and then drop in my eggs. So very carefully, I'll drop in an egg on one side. Very carefully. The fresher the eggs, the more they'll stand up. And yes, I know some of you are going to want to get into the comments and tell me about swirling the water and dropping the... No thanks, haven't got time. I'm doing it this way. Okay. And on a low heat, what I do now is I like to cover it. And if you've got a saucepan that you've got a lid, you can cover it like that. Now, that will speed up the process of the top of the eggs actually getting cooked. So you watch out for the top of the lid getting hot, I've got a tight fitting lid. This is actually a lid for another saucepan, but it fits this perfectly. And you need to cover that up and then keep checking it. Don't worry about losing steam. Lift it, check it, see where you're going. Another thing I like to do is just drop a couple of sprinkles of that on the top. Just a bit of salt over the top. And because it's me, you don't have to do this. I like a bit of pepper on it as well. Don't forget the whole thing's going to be covered in cheese sauce, so it doesn't matter that the eggs have got pepper on them at this point. So back to the lid, and we'll keep watching it. Okay, let's have another look. As you see now, the doneness is starting to creep up the sides, and the water is starting to simmer low. Now when you start seeing the water simmer like that, it means the eggs are coming up to the same temperature as the water, and then everything's coming up at the same rate. So what I like to do now is turn it down to my lowest setting, put the lid back on, and give it a couple of more minutes. Depending on how you like your eggs, you might like them so that they're still quite loose, the yolks, or you might like them that they are well done, but that's entirely up to you. You just need to keep checking, and as soon as the eggs look ready to you, it's ready to serve. If you find, like me, that the water's still a bit too hot, what you do is you put the lid on and you turn it off and you let it cook in the retiring heat. I still think I need to keep a little bit of heat under that right now, just for the time being, and then we shall see. So there we are, I've lifted the lid and they're looking perfectly good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tilt off some of that water, and the heat's off completely. So now I'm ready to serve. So onto my plate goes some generously buttered bread. And then onto that, a couple of slices of ham. And you can do that however you like. I'm going to have one more because I'm feeling greedy today. You can take the crust off your bread if you like, if you're feeling posh. And then onto the ham goes my 2 eggs. You can do it with 1 egg if you don't want a massive breakfast. And then the whole thing, just whip up your sauce right at the end. Drizzle it over your lovely, lovely eggs. I like lots of sauce on mine because I can. Now that, apart from a nice little garnish, is that. Nice, eh? Very nice. Mmm. Mmm. Mmm.
If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon to receive notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.